Hey guys, welcome back to Mystifying Miracles. I'm Kristen, and every week I search out true stories that always contain miracles. So if you like those true type stories, listen along and we are going to dive right in. Our story today involves a lady named Lyndi Harding. Now, she was an avid skydiver. And I'm going to tell a little bit about her background and how she got into it. So Lyndi, she taught chemistry in the year of 1998. And about that time is when she kind of teetered on the thought of learning to skydive. However, in May of 1999, she tragically lost her mother, and that kind of put those feelings of wanting to learn to skydive on hold for a bit. You see, her mom, it was tragic because it was sudden. She went to sleep one night and she just didn't wake up the next day. And later, doctors found out that she had something that was called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is also known as sudden death syndrome. So this obviously devastated her family, her dad, and her siblings. They were lost without their mom. And it was because of that event that led Lyndi to really want to learn to skydive, because it became this type of distraction, I guess you could say, from the heartache that she was feeling from the loss of her mother. So she learned and she took her first jump from about 3,500 feet. And she did that over Humber Bridge, and that was over in the UK. After her first jump, she was elated, ecstatic. It was just like this vibrant thing. She loved it, we'll just say. And so she wanted to do more. And she actually scheduled several more jumps, but they never took place because the weather was always not right. And when that takes place, they have to cancel jumps. So that just kept happening over and over. But the club that she belonged to, the skydiving club, they finally scheduled a trip over in the U.S. and California. And they picked 7 people to travel and go to California to do a jump. And Lyndi was one of them. And so in 2001, they took their trip, got there, and they began doing their jumps. And it was said that Lyndi had taken 4 jumps before something tragic happened. It was on the 5th jump that Lyndi's parachute did not open. And Lyndi says, too, she says she remembers that day riding in the plane with everyone up to get up to the right elevation, but that's all she remembers. She remembers nothing else from then because, you see, she woke up 8 days later in a hospital. But back to the jump, or that fateful jump anyway. What happened was when she took the jump and she was ready to pull the cord, obviously it did not deploy. So she then reached for her reserve canopy to pull that. That one did open, but you see, when it opened, it somehow triggered the main parachute to open, and so both of them pop open, and in doing so at the same time, they actually get entangled with each other. And so obviously with those tangled, they're not opening, so it's not slowing you down. Lyndi, she was falling 70 miles per hour to the ground for about 40 seconds, it said. And she did hit the ground. So when that happened and Lyndi's family got the news, her father and her sister Allie immediately took a flight to the U.S. And when Lyndi woke, 8 days after the accident, she had no idea where she was at first. She didn't know what happened, anything. She was just kind of like in a fog. And here's the miraculous part. Well, I think it's obvious, right? She lived, first thing. But get this, guys. Miraculously, the only injuries that she had were 2 fractured ribs, a punctured lung, a broken nose, and 1 chipped tooth. That's it. No internal injuries as far as like bleeding, head injury. How did her head not, I don't know. Miraculous. But yeah, very few injuries for something of that magnitude. And Lyndi said she does remember, because she was in there for, I think, 3 weeks, it stated. But as she's there and doctors are coming in, checking on her each day, she remembers her doctors just kind of staring at her, like almost as if in disbelief. Like they would do it all the time and they'd have these confused looks while they're staring at her. And the thing is, they could not understand how she was not dead. And Lyndi says, quote, "It was as though they couldn't work out why I was still here, how I hadn't died." So she said exactly that. Well, doctors thought it over, and here's what they came to assume how she survived. They said that Lyndi passed out at some point in the air as she was falling, and then when she fell, she was passed out. So actually, when she hit the ground, that had saved her life due to her body being relaxed when it hit. And I guess I can understand trying to think of that, like you're all tensed up. If you're conscious, you'd probably break every bone in your body. I can see how that would be. But even so, falling that fast at those heights without a proper parachute, even so, there's no way she should have made it. And even Lyndi herself says, another quote, "The tangled chutes would have slowed me a bit, but nowhere near enough for me to survive." End quote. Well, as I stated, 3 weeks after the accident, Lyndi was able to finally return to her home in England. And it said that even though her injuries really weren't all that extensive, she did suffer from short-term memory loss and just pain, like general pain, which I can imagine, your body hit the earth. So she did suffer with that. And just as she was starting to cope better from the accident and remember her mother passing not too long before that, another tragedy struck. And in June of 2002, Lyndi's 7-year-old brother Michael passed away tragically and unexpectedly. And it was found that he died of septicemia, and that's when you've got an infection in your blood and it just takes over, and it's just a dangerous thing, and unfortunately it did take out her little brother. This made it extremely hard for Lyndi. She was set to graduate that year from college, so she did struggle. But she did do it. And it was later in November of 2004 when she went to go visit a friend, and she actually met her husband-to-be while visiting her friend, and his name was Paul. And in July 2006, Lyndi popped the question to Paul, and they were ecstatic that they were going to be married. They moved in together, and they just started their life. Before they were to get married, though, Lyndi wanted to do one last thing, and that was to do another skydive. This one, though, in tandem. And what that means is you jump with another person. If you've ever seen them, it's like one person on top of another with their arms out. That's what that was called. And she wanted to try it. And she made the decision, I'm going to do it. And she said, when I made that decision, I was very, very emotional. I was scared. And she said that she even almost backed out a couple of days before that jump. But Paul was right there as her support system. He always encouraged her, gave her uplifting words, and just loved on her. And so that gave her the strength to say, okay, I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Lyndi did make that jump. She said it was fantastic and that she was so glad that she chose to actually go through with it. Eventually, Paul and Lyndi, they did get married, and Lyndi said she was able to put that accident and all the hurt in her past and just focus on her and Paul's future together. But guys, what a story, right? Like, how does one survive a skydiving accident? I know there's been a few out there that have done it, but that's a rare thing. That is definitely a miracle. in my book. And it's like, not only did she survive the actual fall with very few injuries, but she was able to learn from it and build her life and not continue to live in fear and think about the tragedies that had befallen her family. She was able to move past that. So that's beautiful. It never went into Lyndy's faith or anything like that. But, still, I can imagine, like, what was it? Was it an angel that cushioned her fall? It was something supernatural, that's for sure, because that just don't happen. I don't know. What do you all think? Let me know, and just remember to like and subscribe if you like these kind of true stories. And other than that, guys, I just want to thank you guys for watching and listening to me ramble on and enjoy myself as I talk about these things. I hope you do too. And other than that, I'm going to see you guys the next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.